What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Crack a Pack episode. Today we are opening up a pack of Mirrodin Besieged, not something that we get to open a ton of on this series, so I am really excited about this one. This is a really good set. We are going to go through this, as always, as if it's a draft scenario. If I can get this pack open, the old glue is very, very sticky. But we're going to do the best we can to figure out what our first round draft pick would be if we were drafting this set. As such, we're going to go through every single card, and our first one here is Carapace. It is a one-cast artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and cannot block. The equipped cost, is 3 of any color. So these equipments, this is a very artifact-centric set. Just go ahead and get that out of the way on the offshoot. But equipments are really, really good. They get around the enchant creature issue that I have, where it always ends up in a 2-for-1. In this case, the equipment at the very least is going to stick around, so you can shove it onto something else if you want to. It's great for that reason. This is obviously very, very efficient, and then you can play it on turn 1, equip it on turn 3, maybe play a creature on turn 2. And so I actually really like this card quite a lot. Don't think it's necessarily first pickable though. Definitely all upside, really like this one. The can't block is not the biggest downside, so I actually do like it for that reason, but I don't think it's pick 1 material. I think it's perfectly good. It fits in every deck, but not amazing. Grin Marauder is a 5/5/4/5 and a green. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may gain 5 life. As I said, this is a very artifact-centric deck. You're going to have a lot of artifacts going to the graveyard, so most likely you'll be able to gain a little bit of life off of this. 5 life per artifact is pretty good. I really like that, actually. 5/5 for 6 is also not terrible. It's okay. It's a pretty good finisher for sure. And then obviously the life gain upside, while not necessarily a good strategy long term, is definitely a bonus. I mean, gaining 5 life, even if you only gain 5 life off of this card, I feel like it's probably worth it. I like this more than the Copper Carapace for sure, but again, I don't know if it's pack 1, pick 1 material, but we'll see. Hexplate Golem is a 5/7 vanilla artifact creature for 7 of any color. Very much do not like this card. It's very, very bad. The big toughness number means it's going to probably stick around for a while, but it is obviously just way too expensive. It doesn't do anything other than be a giant creature, which is fine, but not great, so not interested at all. Ardan Recruit is a 1/1 for 1 white. It does have Metalcraft, so it gets +2/+2 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. Again, it's probably going to be pretty easy to get 3 or more artifacts, so this means it's probably going to be a 3/3 for 1 a lot of the time. I actually really like this card. It's a pretty good aggressive card, so it's a good turn 1 play, turn 2 followed up with a couple artifacts. Maybe turn 3, get it to a 3/3. But even if you only play it on turn 3, if you've already been playing a couple artifacts or something like that, it's probably going to be worth it. So I do like this card. I don't know if it's better than the Marauder. I'm going to keep them in the same pile for now, just because I'm not 100% on what the best pick is. Virulent Wound, I hope I'm saying that correctly, is an instant for 1 black. Put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. When that creature is put into the graveyard this turn, its controller gets a poison counter. If you do not know what poison counters are, if an opponent gets, or if a player, of any kind, gets 10 poison counters, they lose the game. That is pretty big. Infect is the kind of namesake mechanic with the poison counters. Is really, really powerful. It essentially means your starting life total, if your opponent is running poison counters or infect, is instead of 20, it's kind of 10, which is pretty busted actually. This card I think is good as just an early kind of kill spell. It's probably not amazing long term, but I do kind of like it. So again, I'm going to keep it in this pile. I don't know if it's necessarily better than either of these other cards, but we'll see. Gliss's Courier is a 2/3 for 1 and 2 green, and it has Mountain Walk. We haven't seen Mountain Walk or Land Walk of any kind in a while, but essentially Mountain Walk just means if your opponent controls a mountain, this creature is unblockable. It can swing right through, they cannot block it. Really good ability for sure, but obviously a very focused ability. It's not going to be good against any other deck other than a red deck. And so for that reason, this is just kind of a below average card. I don't like it very much at all. Dross Ripper is a 3/3 for 4 of any color. You can pay 2 and a black and it gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn. this is just kind of an okay card. I'm not a fan of these mana sinks where you just have to buff stuff, especially when it's 3 mana to do it. That's a lot of mana. You're tangling up a lot of stuff into this. Obviously, late game, it means you can really boost this up, which is fantastic if it sticks around that long. 9 times out of 10, it's probably not. It does make combat a little bit tricky for the opponent, which is worth noting, because you can, before you play anything on your turn, just go straight to combat, swing in with this, and then they have to consider the ability to pump it up a little bit. It has it on itself. You're going to have to be able to deal with that, but not a huge fan of this card. It's a little bit too much of a mana sink on turn 4, in my opinion. Horrifying Revelation is a sorcery for 1 black. Target player discards a card, then puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. This is a really just not great card, unfortunately. They get to pick the card that they discard, and it's only milling 1 card. That's a lot for 1 mana, but because they get to pick the card, most of the time you're not going to get anything all that exciting. So I don't really like this. Scourge Servant is a 3/3 for 4 and a black, again featuring that infect mechanic. So it deals its damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters, and then into players in the form of poison counters. So if it swings in unblocked, it deals 3 poison counters to the opponent, again getting it ever closer to that 10 mark. 10 you lose. The -1/-1 counter is pretty self-explanatory. So Infect is really a powerful mechanic. You can do a lot of stuff with it. I don't really particularly like this card because it is a 3/3 for 5. It's going to be behind the curve. It's going to die most of the time, and so for that reason, not super interested. Our first uncommon is Vidal Can Infuser. It is a 1/4 for 3 and a blue, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a charge counter on target artifact. So not a fan of this card. It's a 1/4 for 4, which is bad. You do get to put charge counters on stuff, which does have some synergy in this set. There are definitely instances where that's great, but 90% of the time I feel like that's not going to be enough. You really want the artifacts with the charge counters first, and then maybe you'll pick up this card, but you don't want to pick this card first. Otherwise, it just could do absolute nothing in your deck. Choking Fumes is an instant for 2 and a white. Put a -1 counter on each attacking creature. That's pretty good for 3 mana, and at instant speed, being able to do that can really do some damage to the opponent. However, I'm not the biggest fan. You have to be like in a losing position because they're going to be attacking you. And so that makes this card a little bit worse in my mind. It's not going to be as good in a position where you're winning the game or it's a stalemate, like a board stall, because the opponent's probably not going to attack in, realistically. And if they can, it's probably going to be a pretty big swing. Choking Fumes can definitely swing that in your favor, but ideally that means you're probably not in the best place anyway. So not a huge fan of this card. Gore Vassal is a 2/1 for 2 and a white. Sacrifice it and put a -1 counter on target creature. Then if that creature's toughness is 1 or greater, you regenerate it. This is a really interesting card. I don't think this is very good. There's a lot. I mean, you can kill a creature with this if it's a very low ground kind of creature, and then you can regenerate stuff if you really want to. You can sack it in response to a kill spell or something like that, maybe regenerate from that, but I'm not a huge fan of it. It just doesn't seem all that good, so I do not like it, to be honest. And then our rare is Phyrexian VAT Mother. It's 2 and 2 black for a 4/5 with Infect, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you get a poison counter. So this is a very self-destructive spell, but also a very powerful one. I kind of like this. A 4/5 for 4 is very, very good. A 4/5 for 4 with Infect is kind of insane. You're going to be able to do a lot of damage with this and probably get rid of a bunch of creatures on the opponent's side of the field because they're going to be chump blocking for days with this. So definitely like this most from the cards that we have so far. And I don't think, oh, we do have a foil here. Blight Widow is a 2/4 for 3 and a green. It does have reach and infect as well. Pretty good card, in fact. Actually really like this one for sure, but Phyrexian VAT Mother, pretty clear win in my opinion. That's definitely the card I would pick. Feel free to disagree in the comment section below if you happen to. I'm happy to have that conversation, but if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like or a comment down below. And as always, please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our awesome content. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next Crack-A-Pack episode.